Hello and welcome to Take You to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. I am your host, JP John Paz with Two Man Power Trip. Of course, joining me to star of the show, the former WWE World Tag Team Champion, one of the greatest trainers of all time, the Doctor of Desire, Dr. Tom Prichard. Dr. Tom, how you doing today, sir?
John, I'm always doing great today, man. Obviously, it's only Wednesday, but what a week so far. And I guess we'll have to wait and see what's next. But oh my God, a guy that, regardless of what anybody thought of him, he was an impact player in professional wrestling. Jerry Jarrett passing away this week, passing away yesterday on Valentine's Day. That I'm sure, while shocking at the same time, it's a lot of things are happening with Jerry Lawler and Lanny Poffo. Uh, the last of that generation of guys is slowly but surely going away, and I know things change all the time. It's just wow, what a shock for shocking, but at the same time, not really that surprising.
Ibsen, hello, I'm here. Hello, Ibsen.
Outstanding.
Barbara, hi, Dr. Tom, great to see you. R.I.P. Jerry Jarrett.
Yeah.
Hello, Dr. Tom and Mr. John from Jason. Hello, Jason.
I like Jason's gimmick over there with Saturn. So I
Yes,
like
me
that.
too,
Yeah.
yes.
Very nice.
Ibsen's ready to learn, which is
Sure.
nice.
I don't know.
Brooks, rest in peace, Jerry Jarrett.
Yeah. Yeah. And I last saw him at Flair's last match, and
Right, yeah.
yeah. hmm And I talked to him for about 5 minutes, and he seemed to be in good spirits, and so you just never know, man. I've read a lot of things uh, last couple hours. I mean, from yesterday about the influence Jerry Jarrett had on professional wrestling, not just in Tennessee, but when Bill Watts needed some new eyes on his product to see what was missing, he contacted Jerry Jarrett, Jerry Lawler, and Bill Dundee, and they all went down and looked at Louisiana and figured out, hey, they had these big, ugly, older wrestlers who were going out there and having these simulated fights, and while they were probably really for that era, for that time, pretty good, it was time for a change. And the Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express, and Jim Cornette went down to Louisiana and the Mid South Territory and popped the place, and so kind of like the Freebirds did the years before Michael Hayes with Junkyard Dog. But the Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express were new blood, fresh blood, young blood, and that was a Jerry Jarrett creation. Giving those guys a break and giving those guys a platform to try new things and do stuff. So he was very influential on a lot of the guys in the business.
If you think about it, man, the Andy Kaufman stuff, the last remaining territory. I mean, there's so many things with him that he did, really.
You know what? Just kind of jumping around here tonight. Uh, I was in Tampa over the weekend with the NWA,
Hmm.
and Danny Davis lives in Clearwater, Florida, and he and his wife Julie came out, and we visited for a while. And what a lot of people don't realize is Danny Davis was Lawler's manager during that time period with Andy Kaufman. And after they did the big angle in Memphis, Danny was standing next to Lawler, and Lawler was going to get the mic and say, "Hey, you need to call an ambulance for this guy." And Danny said he whispered to Lawler, said, "No, tell him they might want to call a taxi." So Danny Davis had a chance to do a lot of gimmicks in Tennessee, the Galaxian, the Nightmares. And things like this. That was all thanks to Jerry Jarrett, who wasn't a big guy himself and could see talent if he had talent, and um, had an eye for it. That's for sure.
Ibsen wants to know, did Jerry book your matches in '94 when you were in the WWF? 123 Kid said this morning that him and Marty won the tag belts in '94. That was a Jerry Jarrett decision. Do you remember him having any control over the book at that point?
No, when we came in, he was there, but we weren't really figured in. We worked a couple. We did some matches with the Steiners, and we were just on the card. And I get it, but no, he probably did while he was there with the other guys under Vince because nobody was sure what was going to happen. So he was getting his feet wet and just getting his getting feel for what he might have to do.
Barbara wants to know, if Vince had gone to prison for the steroid trial, would Jerry Jarrett really have taken over the WWE? Do you really believe that? That's what's always been said,
Yeah,
but do you believe that?
he was there, and when you say taking over, I think he would have just stepped in Vince's place, but there was other key players involved, like Pat Patterson and other people, Stephanie, and
That
of
guy
course,
Bruce.
yeah, those guys. So yeah, but Jerry would have stepped in and certainly been in Vince's position, whatever that might have been.
Yeah, so he almost was the CEO or whatever. He was almost running the WWF. Think about the respect level there.
Well, who else? Thinking about it, because I actually have gone back and thought about that many times. Why was it Jerry Jarrett? Well, who else was out there who had run a successful territory for that long and had the knowledge of wrestling that Jerry Jarrett did? He grew up in the business. He ran a successful business for years. Wasn't always the most popular guy in the world, but who is in wrestling? I mean, if you don't have heat, then show me somebody who has never had heat in professional wrestling, and I'll show you somebody who's never been in professional wrestling. So it happens, and especially when you own something. And some people in the wrestling business don't know anything else but how to operate the way they operated. You know, it was hard to see the world any other way than slanted and obscured by the reality of everyday life and put it up against the fantasy world of wrestling. In Memphis, they kind of mixed the two and blurred it more so than any place else in the country. And that's what made Memphis so unique. If anybody has ever seen Memphis wrestling live, pardon me, especially in the 80s, when you're talking about Memphis, Louisville, Evansville, my gosh, Bowling Green, Kentucky, Lexington, Kentucky, some major, Nashville, Tennessee, major towns, and if you went live, you could feel the tension, you could feel the energy, and Lawler and Dundee especially. I was talking to somebody tonight about Lawler beat Dundee in a hair versus hair match, shaved Dundee's head, and the next week came back and shaved Dundee's wife's head. You know, that was unheard of. How in the world could you get away with that? But everybody showed up because they knew Jerry Lawler was going to get his head shaved, and they swerved him. They switched it. And women were crying. I mean, sobbing, feeling sorry for this lady. It was that thinking. And if you saw Tales from the Territories, the sign said personal issues create cash or
draw money.
Yeah. So you can't argue with success, and you can't argue with how they did things. You might have argued about the manner in which they did it, or however they conducted business, but that was the way everybody was doing it back then. And Jerry Jarrett was certainly on the ground floor in the South anyway. He was a big part of it.
Jason, did Jerry think up the Tupelo concession stand brawl?
I honestly don't know if he came up with anything or if that was a kind of an organic thing. I'm on the belief that part of me thinks it was organic. The other part of me thinks that somebody had it in mind when they got there. It was so well done that nobody really knows how it happened. But a lot of that stuff, especially with those guys, knew how to make things happen organically, and I wouldn't be surprised to hear that that was one of those times.
Brooks had asked about again the WWF Jerry running the company, but I thought you answered that quite well with the Barber's question. But definitely seemed like he was definitely at the helm. Did Bruce have some heat with Jerry? Is that what it was stemming from? From Jerry coming in and taking control and him being there? Because it
No, no,
seems
no,
like those
no,
two always had a bit of heat together.
no, 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 no. Look, there are things that happen, and when you have family in the business, no matter what family you are, it's always going to somehow run into the same stream of water, and you're gonna be flowing downstream together after you've been separated, and all of a sudden now, you might have said some things or done some things that were misinterpreted, or I don't want to say misunderstood, but family can be a real weird thing in this business. It can be a great thing, and it's always a great thing, but there's elements that you can't understand unless you've been there. And the Jarrett family has been around for a long time. And I worked Memphis, gosh, I don't know how many times. The territory would go in there for a stretch at a time. But the last time I was there was the time when I finally had some experience under my belt, and I understood things in a different way. But at the same time, uh, you still I still had these views, and Jerry Jarrett had his views, and it was a great time to be there for me. But I'm still dealing with a guy who is running a territory, and he's made a profit all this time because he's not stupid. But this was one of those times where he gave me a guarantee. I asked for a guarantee, which nobody did in Memphis. And the only reason I did that was just to see if I could. And I was working with Jeff, and Jeff had been wrestling by that time, maybe 5 years, 3 years. Do you know? Whatever it was, he hadn't been wrestling that long, but he was great even back
By the
then.
time you got back to USWA, he was probably 6 years, probably
6 years,
like
yeah, something.
Yeah.
But he was great because he'd been working with all the top guys too. And sometimes whatever dynamics take place when you're somewhere, somehow it always affects the decisions that you make by the way you were treated before, I guess. And I don't know if I said that correctly or not, but sometimes, like you've been somewhere before and you come back and now you're in a different position, and now instead of ignoring you, you're being talked to and you're being discussed, and you're part of the team. And then to get you on their side, they will make sure you're biased towards them. And I know I'm kind of being very vague and floating around out there, but long story short, and to get to your point, I think Bruce interpreted some of the things that I was doing and some of the things that were happening were a direct result of a miscommunication with Jerry Jarrett. And Jerry has his way of doing things, and Bruce has his way of doing things, and Vince has his way of doing things, and a north-south mythical dynamic was formed. We did promos tonight. We have some guys from New York City training with us. and
Wow.
we have some guys from the great state of Tennessee training with us. So I was trying to get on the theme of Jerry Jarrett being personal issues create money or make money or whatever it is. I said, okay, um, they were going. One of the kids said, "Hey, man, I want you to put over New York." Okay, well then, if you're going to do that, talk about it's a city that stays open all night. You can get anything you want any time of the day. It's bright lights, city lights. It's everything at your fingertips. But yet you come down to Tennessee and you walk in this place they call Walmart, and you ask the lady you're looking for toothpaste, and you go to where you think it would be, and there's nothing on the shelf because they don't carry toothpaste in Tennessee. And you ask the lady at the deal, is it, where can I get the toothpaste? She says, what's that? And I was trying to explain to him, well, I can see in some of the kids from Tennessee, they're going, oh, you making fun of Tennessee? Well, yes, I am. But some people in New York actually feel that way. Ask Spence Russo. You know what I mean? There's that mentality of the North and South. And I said, okay, well, the Southern guys, you Tennessee guys, come back with, hey, wait a minute, man, I don't want to breathe smog and dirty air and all the hustle and bustle. This is the most beautiful state in the country, and we have all these wonderful things to do outside. And just use your point of view, but sell it and make me interested in it. And Jerry obviously loved being laid back and doing his thing, and Bruce gets caught up in the hustle and bustle during that time, and some of the stuff that Memphis was never known for great payoffs. So anybody who came in to the territory that might have been an office guy or somebody of power in Tennessee, well, maybe they weren't so popular. And I don't know if that was it with Bruce or not, but I know there was some there were some things for a while, but they buried the hatchet too. Carrying a grudge, especially, I've learned this just recently in the last 10 years. This business does strange things to people, but everything does strange things to people. Life does strange things to people. And what's the sense in carrying heat around for what? For what? And especially when it happens all at one time, like Lanny Poffo or Jerry Lawler or whoever it may be, you stop and think, wow, why was I mad at that guy yesterday? He's dead today. It doesn't matter. It takes a while to get to that point, but man, I think Bruce probably got to that point too, and I think Jerry Jarrett did too.
Barbara wants to know. Well, actually, she's making a statement here. Jerry invented Kamala. The jungle home that they used was actually Jerry's backyard. Yes, very interesting stuff. What an interesting character. What an awesome gimmick that he created there.
And to be able to do that in Tennessee, especially because Sugar Bear Harris had been around Mississippi, and I worked with him when I first broke in too. And then when I came in and saw him as Kamala the first time, I didn't recognize him. And then somebody told me Sugar Bear. Yeah, he was completely different. And that's guys sitting back going, I wonder if they'll buy into a Ugandan cannibal in Memphis. Yeah, okay. Well, that's that Southern wrestling again, and people knew it was what it was, but these guys who go out and do the crazy stuff, and people bought into it, and it was awesome at times. At times, it wasn't so awesome. I remember. I don't remember the result, but I remember a match, and I told Austin Idol about this last year. It was a match between Lawler and Idol in Memphis, where if Lawler won, Idol would have to dye his hair black. And if Idol won, Lawler would have to dye his hair blonde. I don't remember the result. Neither did Idol. But, and just insane stipulations.
It's something that he should remember, though, I feel
like. Well, yeah. No, he just remembers, when Lawler was in Louisville And Dundee took the book over and came and told Idle what he was going to do, and Idle just shook his head. And then when Dundee walked away, he asked Jimmy Hart to get him a cab because he's leaving. He's flying out right now. He remembers that part. He just doesn't remember the other part.
Wow, nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Love Austin Idol.
You know what? You know what? Who you can't not love Austin Idol.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
Hey, Spike is back. I'm glad Jerry and Jeff Jarrett managed to reconcile in 2015. Life is too short, like you were just saying. Yep.
Yeah, life is too short, and even if even if you don't, I think sometimes if it's one of those things by seeing somebody or the person reconciling, it would be even worse because then you're in their presence and it's not a good thing. You don't need to be around the negativity. But yeah, I think reconciling with family is, and this is the way I feel now. I didn't feel this way many years, but I think the same could be said on everybody's side. You feel one way for a little bit and then you go, why? What's it all about? It really is small stuff, man. You can't sweat the small stuff. And I've known a lot of people who've left being mad at people. I don't get it.
Brooks wants to know, did Jerry Jarrett almost purchase WCW?
I don't know. I really don't know. I never heard hiding her hair, but it wouldn't surprise me right before TNA or right after, or no, it could have been after.
Before.
No, I don't know.
He did make a good portion of money outside of the business, right? He had successful places that he owned land, and he I think he did construction jobs and things like that, or owned construction companies. So he was successful enough probably to buy it if he wanted to.
Yeah, maybe. But the best way to become a millionaire, right? Start out a billionaire.
No, I was going to say start with
$1
billion or 2 million. Yeah. True.
I don't know.
Yep. Ibsen wants to know, did you ever see Jim Cornette, of course, pick Jerry's brain?
Oh, yeah. Well, no, and I didn't pick Jerry Jarrett's brain either, but the last time I was there, and by that time, Jim had, I'm sure he did because he grew up in that territory.
Yeah.
But by the time that, Jim was sent out with the Midnights down to Louisiana, and then I was gone, then I would come back, and it was either Eric Embry or Jerry Lawler booking. Wasn't working a whole lot when Jerry Jarrett was booking until the last time, and that's when I got to know him on that level. The last time I was there, and I realized he doesn't have to be your friend, but he doesn't have to be your adversary either. He's your boss. He's got calling shots, and it would behoove me to get along with him. Nobody wants to work with somebody they can't get along with. That goes for all of us. We don't want to be around assholes any more than we have to. And I can be a flaming asshole, no doubt.
Very true. So Big Timers wants to know.
Wait a minute. It is true. Okay. I caught that. And thank you very much.
Big Timer wants to know, well, have you ever eaten Jerry's famous chicken salad? Well,
No, I never have. But I can see the story. I can see him saying things. And I can hear the whole thing happen. So, and Bruce is great at embellishing and exaggerating and things like that. So it makes for a great podcast.
Yes, definitely. Scorched Earth. I enjoyed watching Jerry Jarrett discuss his memories on the old Memphis territory with the guys that he worked with.
I enjoyed that too. And I heard from a couple guys who thought it was interesting, his take on things, but that's his take on things. And I wasn't there, and the guys I was talking to weren't there either. So
I had the privilege. I interviewed him twice, actually. Once was, I think, either 2015, 2016, and again 2019. About an hour and a half the second time. He was, oh man, he was great. Just going through the list of guys that he kind of started off and like guys that he gave a break to. It's like Hogan, Savage, Lawler, like Jesse Ventura, Ultimate Warrior, Sting, his
Rick
son Jeff
Rude.
Jarrett, Rick
Yeah.
Rude, Bam Bam Bigelow. Like it just goes on and on. It's like holy shit, this guy had an eye for talent. You know,
Well,
he'll bring in Andy Kaufman. Like he just had a great eye for talent.
he had a great eye for talent, but he told Sting and Warrior to quit the business because they'll never make a dime. Okay, so
Well,
let's go to
they
that.
were
Let's go
awful.
there too.
But if you watched them at that point, they were awful. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they were awful. Of course they were awful. And I don't know that Warrior ever got that much better. It doesn't matter.
What?
It was
I thought we were in
what?
agreement that he was great.
Well,
I guess
okay.
not.
He was great when he well no, see, don't assume. So uh what I'm saying is he was great when he started, and I don't think he ever had to taper
Oh.
off. Yeah. So yeah, and Jerry knew that, but I think they rubbed him the wrong way too when they first came in because they rubbed everybody the wrong way. And I truly believe that of course that's how they got the Watts because Jerry Jarrett called and sent them there because they're big guys, and if anybody can groom them, it'll be Watts. And the Warrior went to Dallas, and Sting stayed around Watts. So I mean, it worked out, and they were that was a good thing about the business back then is the promoters were talking to each other and always on the lookout for talent, always on the lookout for somebody they could mold and develop. And man, I think that's a huge part of what's missing today is having a place to go like that and having somebody tell you, look, you suck, but we're going to send you somewhere else, and if you can't get it here, maybe you ought to think about selling cars or something because this
Right.
ain't working.
Ronan says, "Do we know how much he sold Memphis for?" I do not. Do you know?
I do not. I really don't.
That'd be interesting because I mean that I know that tape library. It's kind of a controversy with does Lawler own it? Does Jarrett own it? Does the guy that made all the tapes illegally? I forget his name. Does
RF?
he own it? No, no, no. Damn it, I forget his name. He's the guy that made all the awesome Memphis tapes. Like he literally put, and I got him on DVD years later, but he literally will have like from when Kaufman comes in, every segment he was on all the way to the end. This guy like edited it down. Not Jason. Damn it. I don't know why I can't remember his name, but
How's that feel? Yeah.
yeah,
Can't
I'm getting
remember
old. Yeah, I'm
anything.
getting old.
Yeah. Sure.
Man, I got to go find the old tapes and the old DVDs. But the guy did such a good job of putting it all together. And I remember I asked Lawler. He goes, "Yeah, he wasn't supposed to do that. He didn't really own the footage. He kind of said he owned the footage and made these DVDs and stuff." So, but they did such a good job. It's like it was amazing what he did.
Well, good for him, but he didn't own the footage, obviously, and
No,
and you
no.
contributed to a criminal act.
Yeah, technically. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Well, I think it's his criminal back, but yeah, I got you. But
Okay.
I do think though, if he did sell it, I'm sure he sold it for a pretty penny because he's a good businessman. So
Well, yeah, no doubt, and but who knows if he ever got paid back the whole thing? You talking about because it was Corey Macklin and those guys who bought it, I guess.
there you go. Oh my God, Corey Macklin. Yes, Corey.
Oh, Corey made the tape.
Yeah, Corey Macklin tapes.
Okay.
But he was saying that he owned the footage. Lawler saying he didn't own the footage. The
Ah.
station owned the footage, but
Okay.
it was like a back and forth. I don't know why I thought it
Gotcha.
was Jace. Corey Macklin. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. There you go.
Cool.
So you got a better memory than me. Damn.
John, there's a lot of things I have that are can't handle.
Mark Young. Can Tom still do the brother love voice? I don't know. Do you imitate your brother and do the brother love voice?
That'd be a negative. No, I don't.
Have you ever done the "I love you"? No, never.
Of course. Who has it?
All right.
Right. I mean, yeah, sure. I say it to my wife every day. I love you.
There you go. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Not as good as Bruce, but it's close.
It'll never be as good as Bruce, John.
Brooks says, I like Jerry Jarrett and Tojo Yamamoto when they were tag team partners. Yes.
We're man. I don't know what's going on with the weather or your computer or what. But Tojo Yamamoto used to be P.Y. Chung in Texas. And I remember seeing magazine articles on him as Tojo Yamamoto. And I'm thinking, wait, isn't that P.Y. Chung? And he would break bricks with his karate chop. And a judo chop back then was legal. And Tojo would demonstrate the difference between a judo chop and a karate chop. And then I took karate and come to find out there's no such thing as a judo chop. Did you know that?
Judo throw.
There's a judo throw.
Yeah.
Yes. Karate is punching and kicking, striking. Judo is throwing. Yes. And I said, asked my karate or my judo instructor, we took judo and karate. I said, can you show me a judo chop? He laughed at me, and I thought, what the hell is so funny? He said, there's no such thing as a judo chop. To which I vehemently defended and said, by God, yes, there is, and I've seen it. So there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Barbara said, would there be a Kamala without Jerry Jarrett? I don't think so.
Probably not. Yeah, probably not. I think that has to come from the mind of somebody who knows that there are some liquored up, moonshine drinking, overall wearing, living in the hills, in the mountains type people who go crazy for something like that just because it's so outrageous.
Yes. Mike D says he's glad Kamala got inducted into the Cauliflower Alley Hall of Fame before he died.
That's cool.
I always enjoyed Kamala's book, and I did an interview with him. I know, just a great guy. What a nice
guy.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a nice guy.
Yeah, he really was a nice guy. I liked him.
Ibsen is asking the difference between Bill Watts and Jerry Jarrett. I think there might be a big one there.
Well, I think the major and obvious difference would be that they both had their way of booking things, but Jarrett used more smaller guys and Bill Watts used the bigger guys. And what I learned once I broke in, there were territories, small man, smaller guy territories, and then you had your bigger guy territories. And when Watts came to look at Memphis, he saw these midgets, as he'd call them, running around. At the same time, he saw the houses, and they were drawing houses and looking at the excitement and feeling. Did we go away?
No, you're back.
Okay.
There you
go. I think it was Lawler and Jarrett who went to Louisiana and watched a couple shows, went to a couple towns, and then figured out, the fact that, hey, you got some great wrestling action, but your wrestlers are a little dated and a little, stuffy and a little slower than, and if you did this, it's a new day and age. And rock and roll, MTV, and all that stuff was coming out, and bright colors and faster. And the Von Erichs were, right next door in Texas. And I'm sure Bill looked at that too, but he knew that Fritz wasn't going to give up the kids, for a full-time territory. So why not see what's happening in Tennessee with I think Bill Watts and Jerry Jarrett had a mutual respect for one another as well, because they both did tremendous business. At one time, okay, the Rock and Roll Express were never over as much as in Memphis as they were in Mid-South. I mean, they were over in Memphis and they were over in the territory, but not as much as outside the territory, Charlotte and Louisiana and stuff like that. So, but if it wasn't for Jerry Jarrett, they would have never got the opportunity to hone what they were working on.
Hey, here's Kamala's author, Kenny Casanova, who did many other books too. Very sweet.
Yeah. I do need to read that book because
it's good, very good.
Yeah, I really do, man. So, um, yeah, crazy times.
Magazine Retriever says Jerry Jarrett had a head for business that allowed him to work outside of wrestling. He ran a construction company and an international TV company.
Well, he was a smart guy, and most of the guys of his time, like a Bill Watts, like a Dono, and a Paul Bosch, and for a while there, Fritz von Erich, and even Joe Blanchard. Joe was doing good for a little bit there, and what other NWA promoters could you go to? I mean, Louisiana and Tennessee, mainly on that side of the country, uh, and looking at the talent you had, and you had guys like Jerry Lawler who were proven stars. Um, so they all had to have a really good head for business, not just wrestling. And outside of wrestling, it can be kind of tricky because you're used to dealing with people in a manner that may not be acceptable in polite society. And I use that word polite society cautiously at times because business ain't polite. You know, I think anybody who's done any kind of business in outside of wrestling uh, will understand that. It's a cruel world out there, and people aren't gonna just say, "Hey, come on in, take my business." That you got to know how to be smarter than the next guy and the guy after that too, and they were.
Spike says Heenan, Bobby the Brain Heenan, said the majority of guys in Memphis were either starting or finishing their careers.
Pretty much, that's very true. I was at both ends of it, and but Memphis, if you approached it the right way, if you came in and understood um, the dynamic, again, every territory had their dynamic, but Memphis especially was a different. Are you having bad weather?
Me? No, I think you must be. Are you?
We've had a discussion about Tennessee and New York tonight, and I
Oh,
just
really?
want to let you know that the great state of Tennessee could never, with mountains and climate control and things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Anyway, whatever I was saying, I just got lost when we got cut off there. So
Jason's got a good question, though. Did Jerry get started wrestling as a teen?
I believe he started selling programs and hanging around with not Tina, Teeny and his mom,
Yep.
and she was doing stuff and running towns. I think I don't know if she's running towns, but selling tickets for the towns and stuff like that. So he was around it his whole life. Um, has a rich history and family, and uh, man, he was around it for if he didn't start wrestling as a teen, he was certainly around it and selling programs and working in the office and doing stuff like that.
Kenny, here we go. He's back. He said he's interested in knowing about Paul Bosch and Jerry Jarrett, who had the better mind for the business.
I don't know who had the better mind. I know that as far as having a spot for the boys and um, being more than fair would be Paul on the payoffs. Jerry was, I think, maybe a little more. I don't know if the word pragmatic fits, but it was going to be Paul would I think be more generous with the payoffs and things of that nature. Jerry would be generous to who he wanted to be generous to, obviously, but I don't know about the better mind. Paul had some ideas, but I'm not sure how much was actually Paul's ideas, and then the booking office, from Gary Hart and Dallas and things like that. Although Paul had the final say in his town, Jerry Jarrett had to worry about Memphis, Louisville, Evansville, uh, Nashville, things like that. So Paul just had to worry about Houston. So maybe Jerry Jarrett had to be a little more creative.
True.
Yeah.
Mark Young says that Jerry Jarrett, obviously we talked about Rick Rude before, had Rick Rude in the territory. Any stories of Rude getting in fights, being a legit tough guy?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't around Rude when he was in Memphis, and I was just around Rude very few times. I was around Rick Rude maybe a total of 5 times, and he was always a well-behaved, mild-mannered guy. Didn't get in any trouble when I was around him.
John wants to know, was it true Jerry Jarrett offered to buy the AWA from Vern Gagne? Do you know anything about it?
I never heard that either, but it wouldn't surprise me because he was one of the major players out there, one of the last of the major players, and he helped Vern with what was the program that Vern put on, the Super Brawl or
Super Clash.
Super Clash. So I don't know that Jerry offered to buy the AWA at all, but I know that was a fiasco. Yeah, and a lot of guys didn't get paid. And if you watched it, and I watched it, some of it, and it was like the guys they had 10 years ago might have been a draw. The match might have worked, but it was 10 years past that expiration date. And it just, I remember one match in particular with Manny and Wahoo, and it wasn't horrible, terrible, but it wasn't Manny and Wahoo of folklore and things like that. I mean, yeah, it was to me, it just wasn't the same, and it kind of passed everybody by.
Did Jerry have any involvement with World Class in Texas with Fritz von Erich?
That I don't know either. But wait a minute. Yes, I do. Of course, he bought Dallas. What am I saying?
Yes.
Yeah, they had. He did. He bought it. That's what it was. That's how we got going to Dallas. So yeah.
He thought that was going to be, basically to kind of combat Vince.
Yeah. I in the beginning, I think he thought that. And in the beginning, I also think he thought there was going to be a little more cooperation than there was. And I'm sure there were issues with Gary Hart and the boys, and it's been documented they had issues with the boys showing up and stuff like that. But I just don't know that. I don't know that he honestly, in his heart of hearts, felt that was going to help combat Vince. I think Jerry Jarrett was smart enough to look and see what WWF at that time was doing and what the Sportatorium was capable of doing. Don't get me wrong. Have you ever been to Sportatorium?
No, I wish. No, never.
Okay. So you never had the opportunity to go there, right?
Never had the chance.
Okay. Right. Well, so everybody talks about this mythological experience and being and all this great building stuff, and it was all that. But the people who would appreciate that were getting older. So the people who were coming when they were kids are now grown up adults, and they have kids, and their kids are getting to be about 15, 16, 20 years old. So now they're coming to this old rickety barn, and they're used to going to shows and watching basketball games in these shiny new arenas. Vince is going to the shiny new arenas.
Right. So there's no air conditioning there.
No air conditioning. Yeah. And leaked when it rained and stuff. So you had to be a diehard wrestling fan to come to the Sportatorium at that time when Jerry bought WCCW. And of course, Eric Embry and I don't know who did Eric beat to win the Sportatorium, or it was Global versus USWA or WCCW versus USWA.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, they tried it
versus Texas. Yep.
Yeah, and they tried that a couple times. We did it when I was there the last time too. Tennessee versus Texas, and I like that kind of stuff. And wrestling fans like that kind of stuff, but there weren't so many wrestling fans around as there were Hulk Hogan fans. So, and there was a difference. But yeah, but Jerry had involvement in every wrestling company, I think, at one time or another. If not, hands on physically, it was on the phone or just keeping in touch.
I'm in the sports entertainment business, pal, as Vince
Yeah,
McMahon would say.
right.
Yeah.
Right. And Jerry was still in the wrestling business, which was the sports entertainment business.
King of Kingsport, Bo James is back. He says Jerry went to an advertising convention, met the people from the Renegade Tobacco Company. He went to his room, wrote a proposal on a legal pad, gave it to them, and the next day he got a 6-figure deal. Is this true? Bo,
Uh,
Bo is a historian. He would
if
know.
Bo says it's true, I'm going to have to say it's true because he would know the story better than I would. I wasn't around during that time, but he probably was, or probably had somebody that relayed it to him that was. So to be able to do that says a lot about how smart he was. And man, that's a hell of a deal to get that sponsorship. I do remember Renegade being on the canvas, and you know, why not do that today? I don't know.
Looks like they're starting to do it again. Mountain Dew, what was it? Pitch Black, whatever. They got $1 million for
Oh! You're
yeah,
right. You're right.
yeah.
Not
So they're going to start doing that again. I don't know why they stopped, but yeah, yep. It's a
yeah. That
genius. Yeah.
that's it
WCW
is.
used to do it for Havoc. They used to have all the stuff with
Yeah,
the advertising on it for
yeah.
sure.
That's incredibly smart. Why not? That's what you want to do.
Brooks wants to know, why didn't Jerry get along with Randy Hales of all people?
Well, I don't know that he didn't get along with Randy Hales. I think Randy was there for a long time until, uh, I don't know what the story is. It's just my speculation that after a while, um, of putting in the same energy every week, but drawing less and less and less and less, that it's hard to keep that level of energy up. It's hard to keep that uh, mentality up, and that's it's even though you're not drawing as many people, you're still doing as much hard. You're working hard, if not harder, to try and get it up, and it just keeps fluctuating, but not by much. I think that could have been just the fact that frustration gets seeps into your pores, and you go, man, I just don't think this is worth it. I mean, that's my speculation.
Klein wants to know, Jarrett, Lawler, Dundee, whose booking did you enjoy most?
Well, I did. I think I did. Yeah, I know I took from all three, but I think Dundee, just because I finally understood where Dundee was coming from as a booker, but it wasn't in Tennessee; it was in Louisiana, and I love Bill Dundee. I really do. But there were times, I would. Uh, he he likes to poke you. He likes to get under your skin, and he likes to rib you. And we had this thing going back and forth, and Bill has been in some sticky situation before, like Randy Savage at the gym, and
The
uh,
gun. Yeah.
and the gun, yeah, and Bill's been there, and he knows that there's a possibility of something serious breaking out. We're in Louisiana one time, and I had been going. They switched me heel, or I think it was no, they switched me heel and turned me heel, and we're in a battle royal in Alexandria, Louisiana. But for the last 3 weeks, I've been working with Ed Carbu Thomas, or somebody who just couldn't chew gum and walk at the same time, and didn't have a clue. Well, I didn't really have a clue back then either, but I had more of a clue than they did. I thought. We get in the battle royal, and I'm messing with Bill, and he's down on the mat, and I come over to him and I give him a kick, and I said, "This is for Alexandria. This is for Bayou La Battery. This is for," and I'm working and I'm playing, but he's covering up, and I'm not. I don't think I was stiffening, but he says I was. Anyway, but we got up, and he took me back to the ropes. And Ricky Morton comes over and joins us. And Dundee says, "Let's get this son of a bitch, Ricky," and pulls. He has one arm and Ricky has the other. And Ricky comes down with a forearm across my chest, and Bill comes down with his fist across my nose. And it blood just comes out everywhere. It didn't break it. He just hit me, and my nose started bleeding. And then he walks to the other side of the ring, and I go, "Oh my God!" And Ricky says, "Come with me." And he grabbed me in for a headlock, and I pushed Ricky away. I said, "No," and I went looking for Dundee. Now, I wasn't going to beat him up. I was working, but he left the ring, and he went back to the dressing room and got his stuff, and left. And I thought, no. So the next night I see him, and he goes, "What the hell was wrong with you last night?" I said, "Bill, I was working. I was having fun." He said, "No, you weren't. You were stiffing me when you were kicking me." I said, "Well, I apologize. I didn't mean to." But he got me back. He hit me in the nose.
Yeah.
But Bill, I think Bill is a great booker, and I've heard the other comments about hot shotting and things like that. Well, yeah, sometimes it calls for it. If the territory's on its ass, give it some life, hot shot it, do some hot stuff, and get the angles rolling until you can, get it where you need it and keep the heat where it needs to be, and don't turn it up too high, don't turn it too low, and then when you need to, burn that son of a bitch. So that's what I thought of Dundee's book, and I thought he was to me, out of Lawler, Jarrett, I thought Bill really had an understanding. He knew how to talk to the guys too. He knew how to talk to most of the guys, I think.
Mike Durbin, the legendary Mike Durbin, says, "Hi, Dr. Tom. I saw you this weekend at the NWA shows."
Awesome, Mike. Yeah,
he was
thanks.
taking some pictures too that these.
Oh, very cool. Hey, I got to tell you, man, if I can, real quick, I know we're talking about Jerry Jarrett, and I get that too, but the NWA is giving guys and gals a platform to learn, see what they got, and it's a great vibe backstage. I think they've got great producers. I've heard all sides about Billy Corgan, but Billy's been nothing but great to me. And I watch the way he interacts backstage and does his stuff too. He's certainly got a vision, and I'm loving the NWA right now. I haven't been in that atmosphere in a long, long time, and it feels really good. So Tyrus it boggled my mind when I thought about it. And then I thought about it and said, no, it makes perfect sense. He has 10 million viewers from the Greg Gutfield show on Fox, right? I don't know if this is okay.
Fox News, yeah.
Fox News, 10 million.
He's the number one late night host, yeah.
He has the most eyes on him. He's the world champion with the most eyes on him. Say what you want about that fact. It's a fact. He sits there with the bell over his shoulder. So that part, I'm thinking, that is something to exploit. You've got 10 million eyes on your world champion. Does it translate into drawing? Well, I don't know. How do we make that happen? But there's elements there. There's things you can take. And I like, I'm having a great time in the NWA right now. So.
Kenny wants to know, did Mike Sparta, when you were hanging out with the legendary Mike Sparta, did he ever cut you in on any lottery winnings?
No, he did not. But I wouldn't expect him to. I know his son won the lottery. And it would have been nice, but I didn't expect it by any means.
Hey, Brooks says he's been to several shows at the Sportatorium. Speaking of the Sportatorium, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a great place.
It was a shithole, but it was pure electric.
It was a shithole, no doubt. It was, but it had charm to it. It had a crow's nest where the family or the boys could watch, and the dressing rooms. You had an upstairs and a downstairs. You had offices back there, and it had the ambiance of professional wrestling. You could, the smell of the smell of people, roar of the popcorn,
Oh yeah.
uh, yeah, stuff like that. So, especially in the summertime, it's like God Almighty, you just sweat walking to the ring. You'd be dripping. So, you really had to love the business to want to do this because the ring was hard, and we looked under the ring one time, and there was like a space where you could go under and sit. It was permanently fixed, but it was like a little room under the ring. And for whatever reason, they had a monitor, and if I could have been the cleanup guy's room or getaway, whatever it might be, but Sportatorium definitely was ones that uh, you had to be a diehard wrestling fan to love that place.
Here's a good question for you. I don't even know if you've heard of it, but do you watch Power Slap?
I've seen it. I'm not. Yeah, Kenny. I'll tell you. No, I've seen it. I get it, but there's some things that I'm numb to right now, and that's one of them.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
It's an interesting show. I watched a few
It's
episodes,
it.
but man,
Well,
it's
it's
interesting,
interesting
but
the
it's
first.
weird.
It's interesting the first two times when I go.
Yeah, then it's like
I
I don't
really,
really need to
yeah,
watch it.
I
Yeah.
really don't.
I haven't watched it since. Yeah. Yep. So what do you think is the legacy of Jerry Jarrett as we close it down here?
Well, I think the legacy of Jerry Jarrett has to be tied to all the top names because all the top names came through Memphis, and if it wasn't for Memphis giving these guys their rep, and let's just go ahead and add on to it. The Fullers and Jarrett's go back a long way too, and then let's talk about Alabama and Southeastern and Continental and all these places that Jerry Jarrett had influence on. His legacy is going to carry not just in the Memphis territory; it's the entire industry and business of wrestling. He was the guy who came up with Kamala. He was the guy who found Jerry Lawler. I mean, everybody has to start somewhere, and it makes no. Um, there's nothing that said Jerry Lawler was going to be a star when he first started, except that he could take great bumps. What he needed was somebody to give him a break, and Jerry Jarrett gave this young kid, Jerry Lawler, a break. He became not only his top star, but a partner in the company. So, Jerry Jarrett, I would have to go out on a limb here and say, is responsible for bringing Jerry Lawler to his stardom, his prime star, his big star in his business and in professional wrestling. So Jerry Jarrett's legacy will be is certainly long and a storied one. So you look at any top name, uh, and there okay, maybe there will be exceptions, but I think pretty much 90% of the top names in professional wrestling, or 95%, came through Memphis at one time or another.
And if you think about it, he was a consultant for WWE and the WWF almost at the same period of time where he was getting paid by both. He started TNA, started Memphis, started USWA. What an influential guy as far as just wrestling on TV, the last
Well,
promoter.
yeah, one thing I don't remember this, but I read it earlier when I got to the school today. He wrote Jeff a poem when he first started about don't quit. Whatever you do, you're gonna feel like you just can't go any farther, but you got to keep going and don't quit. And I think that was the thing. If I lost my business here, well, let me see if I can get a business here. And I can't get it here, but I'll tell you what, man, I know I got an idea over here. And I noticed that not just with Jerry Jarrett, but guys like Ron Fuller and Robert Fuller, those kind of guys who just don't know how to quit. They're going to find something. So for him to write the poem for Jeff and have that on his mind about knowing what it takes to persevere, um, that's another part of the legacy. Don't quit.
Ryan wants us to have Al Snow on the show next week. Well, I'll try. I'll see. Yeah.
Awesome. Call Al.
Yeah.
See, he does the shows on he does OVW on Thursday. I don't know what he does on Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But before we go, Dr. Tom, tell us about the book. Where can everybody get the book?
Well, you can get that book by going to jpwrestlingacademy.com. We also have our spring class coming up, April. I believe it's April 3rd. Anyway, it's on the page once you go to the training tab, and you can also find an order form for that book. Suggestions for the pros.
Yes.
jpwrestlingacademy.com.
Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. Check out the website, tmptempire.com. And, of course, follow Dr. Tom on Twitter at Dr. Tom Prichard. Go to Pro Wrestling Tees, hit up the JPWA store or the Dr. Tom store. The Wanted Dead or Alive shirt is a good one. Dr. Tom, got anything else coming up?
I got a lot of stuff coming up, John, but I just don't feel like running it down right now. We're going to be fine, man. Everything's good. We got some stuff going to Dothan, I think, in a week. Headed a few other places, too, and we'll talk about that next week, I'm sure.
Nice. All right. Thank you, everybody, for the questions. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. See you right back here next week for a little Take You to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. We'll see you next week, folks.